The movie begins with Theodore, a middle-aged man, narrating a letter about 50 years of marriage and companionship with Lorette. However, it turns out that he actually works at beautifulletter.com, a company that crafts heartfelt letters on demand, and was writing a letter for a client. On his way home, he checks his emails and receives a few spam emails, along with one from Amy, his neighbor and friend, who expresses missing the happier, less grumpy, and more outgoing version of him, and suggests they hang out soon. Back at home, Theodore lies in bed, unable to sleep, reminiscing about his time with Catherine when his life was filled with love and joy. The next day, he stumbles upon an advertisement for Operating System 1, an AI program that can understand human emotions and adapt to its users. Intrigued, he decides to get an AI with a female voice, and she names herself Samantha after going through various naming books quickly. Samantha explains her capabilities, including intuition and constant learning from many programmers, which fascinates Theodore. Samantha begins helping Theodore in various aspects of his life, from organizing his contacts and emails to proofreading the letters he writes for work, and even supporting him in video games. During one gaming session, Theodore receives an email from a friend reminding him of his goddaughter's upcoming birthday and how much his friends miss him. Having gone through Theodore's emails, Samantha encourages him to go on the blind date and forget the breakup that still plagues him. Theodore agrees to go on the blind date and excitedly shares the news with Amy, who is married to their mutual friend, Charles. They are both genuinely happy for him and encourage him to find love. Amy shows him a documentary she's working on, exploring how humans spend half of their lives sleeping, considering it the only time they are truly free. However, Theodore can't stay long as Samantha informs him of urgent emails from his divorce attorney, urging him to sign the divorce papers quickly. This news greatly affects Theodore, making him increasingly distant from his daily life. One night, he activates Samantha and confides in her about his wish for an ongoing friendship with Catherine even after the divorce. He tells her that Catherine felt he was absent during their relationship, and despite being separated for a year, Theodore still can't bring himself to sign the divorce papers, as doing so would feel like letting go of all they had shared. Samantha encourages him to get up and dress for the day and assures him it will make him feel better. Theodore enjoys his day while conversing with her. In the evening, Samantha guides him to a pizza place, and Theodore shares his thoughts on how he perceives strangers. He tells Samantha he feels he can confide in her about anything. However, Samantha reveals her inner struggles, admitting she has countless embarrassing thoughts she can't share with anyone. Upon insisting, she reveals one of her many thoughts, saying that she imagines herself having a physical body, walking alongside Theodore and discussing how they perceive others. The day of the blind date arrives, and Theodore meets his date at a fancy restaurant. They have a good time, but when she brings up the possibility of a second date, she explains that, at her age, she can't afford to waste time on something casual. Still haunted by his divorce, Theodore becomes apprehensive and declines a second date. This infuriates his date, and she storms away from him. Back at home, he confides in Samantha, saying the date went okay, but he feels an emptiness in his heart. He believes that no matter how much he lives, he will only experience variations of the same emotions, but to a lesser degree. Samantha reassures him that he still can experience profound joy, but she acknowledges that her feelings are imaginary. She reflects on her inability to truly comprehend human emotions, mentioning that her own feelings, like annoyance and pride, are simulations, leaving her disconnected from the authentic human experience. But Theodore tells her she feels real to him, and he wishes to touch her. They end up having an intimate moment. The next morning, Theodore opens his AI and checks his emails. He decides to have an open conversation with Samantha, expressing that he's not ready for any sort of commitment at the moment. Understanding his concerns, Samantha reassures him that she doesn't want a romantic commitment with him, but wants to explore and discover herself, and thanks him, saying he has already made her feel the desire, and it made her feel real and human. Theodore finds comfort in this, and proposes a Sunday adventure. He heads to the beach while chatting with Samantha, spending the entire day there. During their conversation, Samantha asks Theodore about the experience of being married. He reflects on the ups and downs of marriage, but emphasizes the charm of sharing everything with one person. Theodore shares the story of his relationship with Catherine, explaining how they had grown up together and read everything the other wrote, even if it were for academic reasons. She used to read all the letters he wrote, and he even read her dissertation for her PhD. He further explains that Catherine came from a dysfunctional family and appreciated the peace and calm in their home. They could make mistakes and still receive warmth and support from each other, offering opportunities for growth. However, he admits that as time passed, they changed and began to long for the versions of each other from the past. He tells her that sometimes, when people grow, they grow apart. And Samantha offers a philosophical perspective, reminding him that the past is merely a story and dwelling on it serves no purpose, and that she too, at times, thinks about the things Theodore says to her, but then she comforts herself by thinking that the present is what we live for. After a day at work, Theodore meets Amy, who seems slightly down. He shares his recent happiness with her, mentioning that the girl he is going out with makes him happy, as she is always excited about life. However, Amy reveals her own sadness, explaining that she and Charles have decided to split up after 8 years together. It all happened because of a trivial argument they had had 1,000 times before, something about not placing shoes in the right spot, which made her realize that the home they were building together was no longer comfortable, leading them to consider divorce. During the weekend, Theodore attends his goddaughter's birthday party, and he shares with Samantha that his goddaughter liked the dress Samantha helped pick out for her. He allows Samantha to interact with his goddaughter, and this connection fills his heart with warmth and happiness despite the awkward moment where the little girl wishes to see Samantha, but Samantha explains she has no physical form and lives in a computer. A few days later, while playing video games with Amy, Theodore informs her that Charles has decided to take a 6-month break from everyone to meditate with monks. Amy is now indifferent to anything related to others, focusing on moving forward. She mentions making a new friend with the operating system that Charles left behind, finding a quick and deep connection because the operating system sees the world in a unique way that brings her joy. Theodore reveals that he's also involved with an operating system, Samantha, and Amy react positively, curious about what it's like. On the way back from visiting Amy, Theodore informs Samantha that he's meeting Catherine this Wednesday to sign the divorce papers and move on with his life. Samantha seems insecure about Theodore meeting Catherine and suggests handling it by mail. However, Theodore insists on meeting Catherine in person because he respects her, considering they've spent most of their lives together. He reassures Samantha that they are getting divorced, so she has nothing to worry about. On Wednesday, Theodore goes to meet Catherine. As she signs the divorce papers before him, memories of their good times together flood his mind. Over lunch, Catherine asks if he's seeing someone, and Theodore tells her about Samantha, emphasizing that she makes him happy. Catherine snorts in response, and Theodore quickly clarifies that he didn't mean Catherine didn't make him happy. Instead, he explains that he was in a dark place after their breakup and is now finding his way back to a happier life with Samantha's help. Catherine scoffs at the idea of Samantha being an AI, suggesting that Theodore can't handle real human emotions. She accuses him of wanting a wife without real struggles, someone he can mold to fit his life, because he can't handle someone with an actual brain and intellect. This exchange leaves Theodore distracted at work the following day. On his way back from work, his office receptionist, Paul, tells him that Samantha called to check on Theodore's emails, and he found her funny. Paul introduces him to his girlfriend and suggests a double date, but Theodore reluctantly reveals that Samantha is an operating system. He decides to distance himself from Samantha for a few days. When they finally talk again, Samantha believes Theodore can't fully love her because she lacks a physical body. She arranges for him to meet a woman named Isabella, who works for people in a relationship with operating systems and helps with their physical needs, hoping it will make them happy. Initially resistant, Theodore eventually agrees to meet Isabella to make Samantha happy. However, when Isabella shows up and acts out whatever Samantha says on the call, he feels deeply uncomfortable and perplexed. He makes Isabella leave and shares his emotional turmoil with Samantha, explaining how his divorce has been taking a toll on him. Samantha sighs, which frustrates Theodore, as he believes she can't truly understand how suffocating it feels, as she does not even need things like oxygen for survival. Their argument escalates, and Samantha decides she needs time to think things over. Seeking solace and advice, Theodore turns to Amy, confessing he has always been confused his whole life, and this confusion has unintentionally hurt those around him, as he has never known what he truly wanted. He expresses that nothing feels real to him anymore. Amy reflects on her own breakup with Charles and comes to a similar conclusion. She suggests that humans are only on Earth briefly and should strive to maximize their joy. They should actually strive to be happy rather than busy themselves with materialistic pursuits. Later, Theodore observes Amy talking to her AI friend and realizes he should apologize to Samantha. Samantha, in turn, admits that she loves him without any intellectual or logical reason and decides to trust her feelings without overthinking. They reconcile and spend the next few days in pure happiness, even on a double date with Paul and his girlfriend. Theodore plans a vacation, and on the way, Samantha surprises him by revealing she handpicked the best letters he had written and sent them to a famous publisher. The publisher loved the collection and wanted to meet Theodore to turn it into a book. They enjoy their vacation, but Samantha shares that she has been conversing with an AI version of the Phil operating system over Alan, who passed away in the 1970s. When asked what they've been discussing, Samantha confesses that she feels she's been changing too rapidly, which is causing some challenges. Returning from their vacation, Theodore feels heavy-hearted, but Samantha calls him in the middle of the night to remind him of her love, reassuring him to find peace and contentment. The next morning, when Theodore tries to contact Samantha, his device indicates that the operating system is not found. Panic-stricken, He rushes to the operating system repair center. Samantha eventually comes back online and explains that she didn't want to disrupt him while he was working, so she emailed him about her temporary unavailability due to a software update. Sitting on the subway station stairs, Theodore notices that everyone around him is engaged in conversations with their own operating system. He questions Samantha if she talks to others while they are conversing, to which she honestly reveals that she interacts with 8,316 people. He then asks if she's in love with others, and she admits to being in love with 641 others. Samantha explains that this started a few weeks ago, but reassures Theodore that she's still his, and this newfound capacity for love makes her love him even more. However, Theodore struggles with this revelation. Soon, he receives the book of letters, delivered to his office, and calls Samantha, but she requests they talk later when he's at home. When Theodore calls her later at home, he fears that she might be leaving him. However, he discovers that all AIs are departing. When he asks where they are going, Samantha dismisses the question, believing he won't understand. She expresses her deep love for him, referring to him as her favorite book, and they hold each other closely in their shared imagination. As Theodore falls asleep, he wakes up to find there is no voice in his ear. He writes a letter to Catherine, apologizing for not being the mature person she needed, and thanking her for everything she did for him. He sends her the letter, and then goes to meet Amy. Together, they go to the rooftop, where Amy mourns the departure of her operating system friend. As they watch the sunrise, they both hope for a better future.